Have you ever sensed it? That quiet discomfort pressing against your chest, as if something deep within is whispering that your life isn't quite what it seems. You wake up, go through the motions, fulfill your duties, yet something feels off. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's subtle, like a background hum, quite identify, but can't ignore either. It's the unsettling realization that, somehow, you're not free, that there's something invisible holding you back, something you can't name. It's like living inside a cage with no bars, one that doesn't confine your body, but your spirit. And what makes it even more elusive, that most people never even realize it exists. They decorate their cages with possessions, titles, and routines, convincing themselves they are fulfilled, while a quiet inner voice calls out for something more. Have you heard that voice? This invisible prison isn't made of metal or stone. It's forged from beliefs, fears, and patterns that have taken root so deeply they feel like reality itself. It's the unspoken rules you've learned to follow without question, the subtle programming that keeps your awareness locked in a limited frame. Think about it. How often do you feel like you're living someone else's story? Like your choices are guided more by expectation than intuition? This is no accident. You've been taught to stay inside the lines, to avoid risk, to fit in, to suppress that burning urge to break free. And the most haunting part, you don't even realize you're confined until you start to push against the boundaries. That's when the discomfort intensifies. That's when you begin to see the truth. Some people sense it early in life, others don't hear the whisper until much later. But whenever it arrives, it marks the beginning of a profound inner journey. A journey not of distance, but of depth. It doesn't ask you to move mountains or travel to distant lands. It asks you to feel, to question, to remember. Because what you've forgotten is that you were never meant to be small, never meant to live in fear, never meant to conform to a system that dims your light. The invisible cage isn't just personal, it's collective, a structure of consciousness that affects entire generations, a dense fog of disconnection that keeps humanity repeating the same cycles. But every cycle has a breaking point, and maybe, just maybe, you are nearing yours. But here's the catch: not everyone breaks free. In fact, most don't. The cage is too comfortable, too familiar, too safe. It offers predictable rewards and distractions just enough to keep the soul asleep. Escaping it requires courage, clarity, and an unwavering desire to know the truth, no matter how unsettling it may be. And even then, the escape is not immediate. It's a process, a peeling away of illusions layer by layer, until what remains is raw, real, and radiant. Those who begin this journey start to see the world differently. They begin to feel energies they never noticed before. Synchronicities increase, old patterns begin to crumble, and something ancient and powerful begins to stir within. But this awakening isn't for everyone. Only a few ever reach the threshold, and even fewer cross it. There are reasons for that. There are forces both internal and external that resist this shift. Because true freedom isn't just about escape. It's about transformation. And transformation requires facing what we most fear. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore the deeper layers of this hidden structure. We'll look at the 5 invisible blockages that keep most people trapped within this psychic prison. And here is where it gets personal. Because one or more of these blockages may be operating in your life right now, quietly keeping your wings clipped. Are you ready to discover what they are? Forget everything you think you know about the 5th dimension. It is not some far-off paradise, a heavenly place you go to when you die, or a mysterious planet where only the enlightened dwell. It is not science fiction, and it certainly isn't reserved for gurus and mystics. The 5th dimension is here, now. It's not a location, it's a level of awareness, a frequency, a shift in how you experience reality itself. In this dimension, the illusions we've come to accept as normal begin to dissolve. Time, as we know it, begins to lose its grip. Separation between you and others, you and the world, you and the divine starts to fade. In the fifth dimension, you don't simply react to life, you create it. Here, the concept of duality no longer rules your perception. Right and wrong, light and dark, success and failure, these polarities become part of a greater whole. You begin to understand that everything has purpose, that nothing is truly separate, that what you think, feel, and believe shapes the reality you move through. This level of consciousness isn't about perfection or escapism. It's about presence. It's about living from your inner truth without fear, without masks, without compromise. It's where compassion overrides judgment and understanding replaces blame. It's where you remember that you are not a victim of life, you are its architect. Most people live in the third dimension, governed by fear, scarcity, control, and survival. Everything is based on cause and effect, linear time, and material gain. In this dimension, the external world dictates internal peace. People chase approval, accumulation, and validation, hoping that someday it will make them feel whole, but it never does. The fourth dimension is where questioning begins. It's the realm of seekers, healers, and wanderers who sense there is more. It's the bridge between waking up and fully stepping into expanded consciousness. But many get stuck here, endlessly searching, collecting knowledge, but never truly transforming. The fifth dimension is different. It's not about learning more, it's about becoming more. About embodying the truth that has always been within you. In this space, the rules change. You no longer operate from fear. You no longer need permission to be who you are. You align with your soul, your source, your sacred mission. You flow with life, not against it. The heavy density of limitation falls away, and the lighter, more luminous reality emerges. One where intuition leads, synchronicity becomes normal, and your very presence begins to affect others positively without effort, without agenda. But here's the truth many overlook: what everyone wants you to rise into this state. There are systems, patterns, and even people who benefit from your disconnection, who rely on your fear, your doubt, your distractions. Awakening isn't just a personal act, it's a radical one. Because to step into the fifth dimension is to reclaim your power fully, and that can shake the very foundations of the world around you. This is why the journey is often met with resistance, not only from outside forces, but from within. Because crossing this threshold means leaving behind everything false, and that is no small feat. You may feel the pull, the invitation, that gentle yet persistent nudge from your soul. And if you do, it's for a reason. You're being called to something higher, something more true. But before you can rise, you must see clearly what holds you down. There are 5 invisible chains, 5 energetic blockages that keep even the most sincere seekers stuck in lower frequencies. And unless they are brought into awareness, they will continue to sabotage your path. In the next chapter, we begin to unveil these blockages one by one. But be warned, once you see them, you cannot unsee them. And that is where real freedom begins. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange pull towards something greater. And yet, something always holds you back. It's not just external pressure. It's something deeper, subtler. A force within that stops you just as you're about to leap. These are not random setbacks. They are patterns, energetic chains. Invisible blockages that keep even the most awakened souls trapped in a cycle of limitation. And most of the time, we don't even see them. That's what makes them so powerful. They operate in the shadows, beneath the surface of our awareness, influencing our choices, sabotaging our growth, and dimming our light. These chains are not punishments. They are invitations, portals, and once you become aware of them, the real work begins. There are 5 of these chains, 5 blockages that form the framework of the invisible cage we spoke of earlier. Each one is rooted in a core human fear. Each one ties your consciousness to the dense frequency of the third dimension. The first is resistance to change. This is the fear of letting go, of releasing the familiar, even when it hurts. People stay in toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and outdated identities simply because they fear the unknown. The second is attachment to the material world. When your self-worth is tied to what you own, what you look like, or what others think of you, you anchor your energy in a fragile illusion. The third chain is fear of being alone. The silence of solitude terrifies the ego, so it fills the void with distractions and noise. But in doing so, it blocks the voice of the soul. The fourth blockage is ignoring your inner signals. Your body, emotions, and intuition are constantly speaking to you, but most people have learned to dismiss these whispers in favor of logic, routine, or societal norms. This disconnection leads to chronic confusion and inner numbness. And the final chain is the most insidious of all, the illusion that you're already awake. This is spiritual complacency. The belief that reading books, watching videos, or talking about enlightenment is the same as embodying it. But true awakening is not an idea. It's a practice, a way of being. And many people stay stuck here, believing they've arrived when they've barely begun. These 5 chains are subtle, persistent, and embedded deep in our psyche. They are the gatekeepers of the third dimension. Now, take a breath. Let these sink in. Don't rush to fix them. Just notice which ones feel familiar. Which ones stirred something in you as you heard them. This is where real self-awareness begins. Not in judgment, but in observation, in honest reflection. There is no shame in recognizing these patterns. In fact, seeing them clearly is the most courageous step you can take. Because awareness is the key. You can't transform what you won't face. And as long as these chains remain hidden, they will keep pulling you back every time you try to ascend. Every time you feel yourself expanding, they will whisper reasons to stop, to settle, to stay small. But you are not small. And you were never meant to stay trapped. These 5 blockages are not your enemy, they are your mirror. They reflect where your soul is asking for liberation, where your growth is waiting. And now that you see them, the journey changes. The terrain becomes clearer, even if the path is still steep. In the next chapters, we will walk through each chain one by one. We will shine a light on their origin, their effect, and most importantly, the way through. But for now, pause. Let this awareness settle. Because the chains are no longer invisible. And once you've seen them, you are already halfway free. Let's begin where the cage tightens first resistance to change. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but don't be fooled. This is one of the most powerful and underestimated spiritual blockages of all. You see, change is the mechanism through which the soul evolves. Without change, there is no growth. And yet, as human beings, we cling desperately to what is familiar, even if it hurts us. Why? Because the unknown is terrifying. Because the ego would rather suffer predictably than risk the chaos of transformation. This is the hidden truth. Your ego isn't designed to liberate you. It's designed to protect you. But in doing so, it often becomes the prison guard of your consciousness. It tells you that comfort is safety, that old patterns are security. And so, you resist. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a job, a relationship, a belief system, or even an identity, long after it had served its purpose? Not because it was right, but because it was known. The fear of letting go can feel like death, and in a way, it is. True transformation requires the death of the old self. It demands a surrendering of control. And the ego interprets this as annihilation, so it fights back. It convinces you that change is dangerous, irresponsible, reckless. It whispers that if you step into the unknown, you'll fall. But what if that's not true? What if letting go isn't falling but flying? What if what feels like chaos is actually the beginning of divine order rearranging your life from the inside out? The problem isn't that change is hard. The problem is that we try to control it. We try to manage a force that is, by nature, uncontrollable. The universe doesn't wait for your permission to evolve. It moves with or without your consent, but when you resist it, you suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because you're holding on to what wants to be released. Every crisis, every breakdown, every uncomfortable shift you experience is not a punishment. It's a spiritual invitation. It's a knock at the door of your consciousness saying, "Are you ready to shed the skin you've outgrown?" And if you ignore that knock, it gets louder. Until eventually, something in your life breaks open so to destroy you, but to reveal who you really are underneath the shell. There is a deep intelligence in the flow of life, but it can only carry you if you let go. If you stop clinging to the shore and allow the current to take you. This doesn't mean abandoning all structure or becoming reckless. It means becoming fluid, responsive, awake. It means listening when life nudges you to change, even if your mind doesn't understand why. And here's the paradox: the moment you surrender to change is the moment you gain true power. Because now, you're not being dragged by life, you're dancing with it. You're moving in rhythm with the greater unfolding. And that rhythm is sacred. It knows where you need to go. It knows who you truly are becoming. So ask yourself now, with brutal honesty, where am I resisting change? What am I afraid to let go of? What part of my life feels heavy, stagnant, expired, but I'm still holding on to it because I'm afraid of the void it might leave? This is not about judging yourself. This is about meeting your fear with compassion and curiosity, because fear is not the enemy. Denial is. Change is not the threat. Stagnation is. The more you resist, the harder the process becomes. But the more you trust, the more miraculous it gets. In the next chapter, we'll explore another chain, the illusion of material security. But for now, sit with this truth: transformation isn't something you do. It's something you allow. Let the old self die. Let the new self emerge. This is how freedom begins. Now we step into one of the deepest illusions of our reality, the belief that we are what we own. This is blockage to attachment to the material world. It's subtle, it's everywhere, and it's powerful. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe that our value is measured by our possessions, our appearance, our titles, our social status. We're taught to chase things, to accumulate, to succeed externally. Even if we are collapsing internally, we decorate our cages with shiny objects and call it freedom. But in truth, we've simply learned to confuse our identity with our image. This attachment doesn't only enslave us materially, it binds our soul to fear. The fear of losing, the fear of not having enough, the fear of never being enough. Look around you. Our society thrives on this illusion. Advertisements tell you that happiness is one purchase away, that success can be seen, touched, driven, or worn. And if you don't play along, you're seen as irresponsible, unrealistic, or even lazy. But let me ask you something: who would you be if everything you owned disappeared tomorrow? If your job title vanished, your home gone, your social media erased, would you still feel whole? Would you still know your worth? This is where the material illusion is revealed. Because anything that can be taken from you is not who you truly are. And yet, we build entire lives around protecting these fragile identities. We attach meaning to symbols of success that, in the grand scheme, mean nothing to the soul. This isn't about rejecting the physical world. The fifth dimension isn't a rejection of matter, it's a transformation of your relationship with it. In higher consciousness, you don't need to abandon abundance. You simply no longer serve it. You enjoy what you have, but your joy isn't dependent on it. You can experience luxury, comfort, and beauty without being possessed by the need for them. You begin to understand that true wealth has nothing to do with bank accounts and everything to do with energetic alignment. Peace, presence, purpose, these are the currencies of the soul. And when you are aligned with your true essence, these inner treasures begin to magnetize external experiences naturally. But if you're still chasing things to fill a void, You'll never find peace, only more craving. Let's go deeper. Material attachment isn't always obvious. It hides in subtle places. In the fear of losing status, in the need to compare, in the shame of not having enough, in the anxiety that creeps in when things feel unstable. These are signs that you've tied your safety to something outside yourself. But true spiritual power comes when you realize that nothing external can define or destroy who you are. You are not your income. You are not your reputation. You are not your resume, your wardrobe, your car, or your follow account. You are something eternal clothed in the temporary. And every time you remember that, a piece of the illusion falls away. Every time you choose presence over possession, your frequency rises. So ask yourself, now, what have I attached my identity to? What would I fear losing most, and what does that say about where I've placed my sense of self? Again, this is not about shame. It's about liberation. There is nothing wrong with enjoying the material. The danger lies in mistaking it for meaning. Let yourself see this pattern clearly. Feel its weight, and then start loosening your grip. Because the tighter you hold on, the more you reinforce the fear of loss, and fear is the opposite of freedom. In the next chapter, we'll explore another subtle chain, the fear of being alone, and how it silences the deepest wisdom within you. But for now, remember this: you are not here to own the world. You are here to remember that the world can never own you. Silence, emptiness, stillness, these are the spaces where the soul speaks, and yet they are also the most avoided. Welcome to Blockage 3, the fear of being alone. This chain is not about physical solitude, but emotional and spiritual isolation. Most people spend their lives running from it. We fill our calendars, our feeds, our minds, anything to avoid sitting quietly with ourselves. And in doing so, we drown out the most important voice we have, the voice within. The modern world is designed to keep you distracted. We've built a culture addicted to noise, endless stimulation, constant connection. But beneath all that connection lies a deep, unspoken disconnection, not from others, from ourselves. And this is no accident. Because when you are constantly tuned outward, you forget how to tune inward. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not lonely, but alone, with no phone, no music, no scrolling, no conversation. Just you, your breath, and your thoughts. If that idea makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. The ego fears solitude because in silence, its illusions begin to dissolve. In silence, you begin to see the truth of what you feel, what you've avoided, what you truly desire. And for many, that's terrifying. It's much easier to numb the discomfort with external inputs than to sit with the rawness of your own being. But make no mistake, this fear of being alone is a powerful spiritual block. It keeps you dependent on others for validation, for identity, for direction. And if your sense of self only exists in relation to others, you are never truly free. The paradox is that true connection with others can only happen after you've connected with yourself. Until then, your relationships will be filled with projection, expectation, and emotional dependency. You'll look to others to fill the void only you can touch. But here's the truth: the void isn't something to fear. It's sacred. It's a space of potential, not absence. It's where your intuition is the loudest, where the divine speaks the clearest, and where your highest self begins to emerge. When you learn to be alone without being lonely, you step into sovereignty. You stop grasping. You start radiating. Your presence becomes magnetic because it's rooted in authenticity, not in need. Solitude is the soil of awakening. It is the womb of transformation. But it must be embraced with intention. This doesn't mean you need to isolate yourself or live as a hermit. It means making space, intentional stillness, daily moments of disconnection from the world, so you can reconnect with your core. And yes, at first, it will feel uncomfortable, maybe even painful. That's okay. You are detoxing from overstimulation. You are rewiring the nervous system to feel safe without constant input. And in time, you'll discover that this space, the one you once feared, is actually your sanctuary. It is where clarity lives, where truth lives, where peace lives. So ask yourself now, can I sit with myself in silence? Can I find fullness in my own presence? Or do I reach for something, anything the moment stillness arises? This awareness is a gift, not a judgment. If the answer is yes, then honor that, sit with it. If the answer is no, then start gently. 5 minutes, just you, and the breath, and the moment, let it grow. In the next chapter, we'll explore the fourth invisible chain, the one that keeps you from hearing your own inner guidance. But before we go there, remember this: the fear of solitude is not a weakness, it is a signal, an invitation. And those who accept it begin to hear what others never will. There's a language you were born fluent in, a subtle form of communication that doesn't use words, and yet it speaks louder than anything else when you're quiet enough to listen. This is the language of your inner signals, your intuition, your emotions, the sensations in your body. These are messages from your higher self, your soul, your divine intelligence, and yet most people ignore them. Welcome to blockage, for the spiritual blindness that comes from disconnecting with your inner guidance system. We've been taught to prioritize logic, to value facts over feelings, to follow what's rational and proven. And in doing so, we've silenced the voice of our deepest truth. Think of how often you've had a gut feeling, a whisper in your chest, a tightening in your stomach, a sudden wave of unease, or knowing, and you dismissed it. Maybe you went into that relationship anyway, took that job despite the hesitation, trusted someone when your body said otherwise, and later you thought, I knew it. That's not coincidence. That's inner guidance ignored. Over time, ignoring these signals builds a wall between your conscious mind and your intuitive intelligence. You begin to feel confused, indecisive, numb. You stop trusting yourself. And when that happens, you hand your power over to others, to systems, to authorities, to voices outside yourself. Because if you can't trust your inner compass, you'll forever seek someone else's map. But here's the truth: your body is always speaking. Your emotions are intelligent. Your intuition is sacred. Every shiver, every spark of excitement, every tightness in the chest or flutter in the gut is information. It's not irrational. It's wisdom beyond logic. And the more you learn to recognize it, the more clearly it speaks. This doesn't mean dismissing logic or reason, it means integrating both. True wisdom is found at the intersection of mind and soul, intellect and instinct. And when these parts of you work together, you move through life with clarity, with alignment, with trust. You become your own oracle. To live in the fifth dimension, you must reawaken this internal connection, because in higher consciousness, you are guided not by rules, but by resonance. You feel your way forward. You sense what is true, even if it can't be explained. Synchronicities become signposts. Dreams become messages. Numbers, symbols, emotions, they all become part of your dialogue with the universe. But to receive that guidance, you must first believe it's real. And then, you must become still enough to hear it. Most people miss the signs because they are waiting for a voice from the clouds, when in reality, the voice of the divine often whispers through the body, through silence, through symbols, through feelings. So ask yourself, what signals have I been ignoring? What has my body been trying to tell me that I keep dismissing? What patterns have repeated in my life, not as punishment, but as guidance? This is not about becoming paranoid or hyper-analytical. It's about becoming receptive, open, curious. Begin to journal your feelings. Track your intuitive nudges. Notice the timing of synchronicities. Slowly, your trust will return, and as it does, so will your sense of alignment. In the next chapter, we'll explore the final and perhaps most deceptive blockage, the illusion that you're already awake. But before we go there, remember the answers you seek aren't always out there. Often, They've been inside you all along, waiting patiently to be heard. This is the most subtle and the most dangerous of all the blockages. Blockage 5: the illusion that you're already awake. It hides behind spiritual knowledge, behind books, teachings, meditations, and mantras. It wears the mask of wisdom, but underneath is stagnation. This is the trap that many seekers fall into. After enough time in the spiritual space, it's easy to believe you've arrived. You've done the work, you've read the right things, you speak the language of consciousness. But awakening isn't a concept you learn, it's a truth you embody. And as soon as you believe you've reached the top of the mountain, you stop climbing. That's where the illusion begins. This blockage doesn't look like fear or resistance. It looks like confidence, like clarity, like certainty. But underneath that certainty is a refusal to go deeper, to question again, to dismantle what you've built. True spiritual evolution is not linear, it's spiral. It revisits the same truths from higher altitudes. And when you fall into the illusion of "I already know this," you close the door to expansion. You settle into comfort, into spiritual ego, into performance. You become more interested in being right than in being real. And slowly, your journey becomes performance instead of transformation. The outer self appears awakened, but the inner world becomes silent, unmoving, untouched. Let's be clear, this is not about guilt. It's about humility. The most evolved souls are not those who claim enlightenment, but those who remain students, who question even their most cherished beliefs, who welcome discomfort as a signal, not a threat, who know that awakening is not a trophy, it's a responsibility. It means that once you see the illusion, you're called to live in truth, to embody love, to serve light. And none of that can happen if you're stuck in the idea of being finished. If you want to truly ascend, you must be willing to let go of the identity of being awakened. Because even that can become a prison. Ask yourself, have I become attached to my image of being conscious? Have I confused spiritual language with spiritual integration? Am I more focused on appearing awakened or on actually living it? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. Because many people will stop at this point. They will protect their self-image at all costs. They will defend their understanding instead of expanding it. But you don't have to be one of them. You can choose honesty over illusion, depth over display, growth over comfort, and in doing so, you unlock a new level of awareness, one that is grounded, humble, and truly transformative. In the next chapter, we'll finally bring everything together. We've named the 5 chains. Now it's time to explore the path to breaking them. But before we step into that, remember, this awakening isn't a destination. It's a devotion, a continual willingness to open, to unlearn, to soften, to rise. And the moment you say, "I am awake," ask yourself, can I go even deeper? You've seen the cage, you've named the chains. Now comes the moment of truth. How do you break them? This isn't about theory anymore. It's about embodiment, action, practice, because awareness alone doesn't set you free, it simply opens the door. You still have to walk through it. And the path is not linear, it's not glamorous. It's sacred, personal, and it begins with a single, honest decision to stop running, stop avoiding, stop pretending, and start showing up fully, fiercely, and faithfully for your own transformation. The chains that bind you can only be broken from within. And the key to every lock is consciousness, turned inward. The first step is surrendering to change. Stop resisting what life is trying to do through you. Every breakdown, every uncomfortable shift is an initiation. Let go of control. Trust the divine architecture of chaos. Ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this awakening within me?" This shift in perception begins to melt the first chain. The second is detaching from identity tied to things. Practice giving without fear. Let go of something you think defines you. A piece of clothing, a status symbol, a title. Watch what happens when you do. you'll see that what you release had no power over who you are, it only had the power you gave it. Third, embrace solitude as a spiritual discipline. Set aside time each day to sit in silence. No phone, no music, just breath and presence. Let discomfort rise, then let it pass. Eventually, silence will become your sanctuary. Fourth, trust your inner signals. Begin tracking synchronicities. Journal your intuitive nudges. Pay attention to sensations in your body when you make choices. Over time, you'll retrain yourself to hear the guidance that's always been there. Let your life become a dialogue with your soul. And finally, the fifth and most crucial step, cultivate humility and curiosity over spiritual certainty. Never stop asking, what else is possible? Read what challenges your beliefs. Spend time with people who see reality differently. Allow yourself to be cracked open again and again, until what remains is not an identity, but presence. None of these steps are quick fixes. They are invitations, daily practices, spiritual commitments. The journey of breaking these chains is not about escaping life, it's about entering it more deeply. With eyes wide open, with heart unarmored, with truth as your guide. And yes, it will feel vulnerable, uncertain, even lonely at times. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. The kind of freedom no one can take from you, because it doesn't come from the world, it comes from your alignment with your true nature. This is the essence of fifth dimensional living, floating above reality, but flowing through it with full presence and power. So here's the challenge. Which of these practices will you begin today? Not tomorrow. Not when life calms down. Now. Freedom isn't found in waiting, it's found in walking. And every step you take sends a message to the universe: I am ready, ready to grow, to awaken, to rise. In the final chapter of this journey, we will explore what it means to choose fully to ascend. Because now that you know what holds you back, the only question that remains is, will you rise above it? This is the moment where everything converges. The truths you've heard, the chains you've seen, the practices you've received. Now, it all comes down to one thing: choice. No one can walk this path for you. No one can rise on your behalf. You are standing at the edge of an inner threshold between the world you've known and the reality your soul remembers, between limitation and liberation. And though the path may be steep, the invitation is simple: will you stay where it's familiar, where the chains feel safe? Or will you rise into the unknown, into your power, into your truth? Most people won't choose this path, not because they're weak, but because they're afraid. Afraid of losing comfort, afraid of letting go of control, afraid of discovering who they really are. Because make no mistake, awakening is not a gentle unfolding. It is a dismantling, a shedding, a rebirth. But if you've come this far, there's something in you, something ancient, sacred, and ready, that is already rising. You didn't find this message by accident. Your higher self led you here. And now it's asking, are you willing to choose yourself? To choose presence over numbness, intuition over programming, light over illusion. The fifth dimension isn't a dream, it's a frequency. And it becomes available the moment you align with truth. Every act of awareness is a vote for expansion. Every moment of stillness is a step out of the matrix. Every courageous decision to feel, to let go, to grow is a crack in the cage. And when enough light enters through those cracks, the entire illusion begins to collapse. This is the power you hold, not someday, not later, now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this sacred moment of remembering who you are beyond the story you've been told. So what will it be? Will you keep circling the same loops, dragging the same chains? Or will you rise with clarity, with devotion, with fire in your soul? The choice is yours, and it always has been. But know this: every time you choose truth, you give others permission to do the same. Your transformation ripples outward, your light becomes a beacon, and your journey becomes a sacred offering to a world that is still waking up. You are not alone in this, There is a rising wave, a soul family stepping into remembrance together, and you are part of it. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next revelation. And now, share your truth in the comments below. Which of the 5 blockages resonated most deeply with you? Write "My main blockage is number." And, if you wish, share how you're working through it. Your story might be the spark someone else needs. Let's rise not alone, but together. The next dimension begins with your decision.